Hey guys, it's Monkey Joe again. I'm using a new camera, so it's taking me all day to make this video, so I'm sorry. But this video is video one of a multi-video series about casting. This video is just going to be talking about different terms that I'm going to be using in the other videos, where to get your supplies, and some different questions you ask yourself before you started getting casting and such like that. So this is going to be kind of a long and boring video, but you know it's pretty important so you know what I'm talking about in later videos. So we're going to go ahead and get started here with terms. You notice that I will look over to my right hand side. I have a cheat sheet pulled up on my computer so I don't forget anything for you guys. Okay, let's get started. Terms. RTV. RTV discusses or talks about silicone. It's room temperature vulcanizing, meaning that you don't have to have a steam vulcanizer or anything like that for it. Just at 70 degrees, it'll go ahead and cure if mixed properly. Silicone is what you're making your mold out of. It's a two-part mixture that you mix two parts and pour over your master. And that's actually what your mold is. It's blue, green, yellow, whatever it is. But all that is it's what forms your mold. The mold is actually the silicone that you're using to make a duplicate of your master. Whenever your silicone is completely cured and everything else, that's actually going to be your mold. It has a cavity in it for the resin to go into, and that's how you make your parts. Mold box. Since silicone is usually pretty low viscosity, mold box is used to contain it so it doesn't leak out and make a mess. Mold boxes are pretty important because if your mold box isn't, completely sealed, or if it's weak in a place, it'll leak out and it'll make a real big mess. But mold boxes, I usually make mine out of foam core. I've seen people make them out of cups that are cut in half, or Tupperware containers, all kinds of stuff. All it is just a container to hold your silicone to keep it from going all over the place. Resin. For what we're discussing now is usually just two-part, one-to-one casting resin. It's what you make your parts out of. You mix it together, pour it into your mold, and whenever it cures, that's your extra part. Cavity, that's the negative that's in your silicone made from your master. Whenever you pour your silicone over top of your master and it cures and you remove your master from the mold, the hole in the mold is actually the cavity. That's what you fill up with your resin to make your part. Registration keys. Those are little marks or indentions or parts of the mold that help it line up on a two-part mold. They're absolutely necessary for a two-part mold in order to make sure that it lines up correctly the same way every time. They're pretty important. We'll get into it with future videos, but they're a necessity for making a multi-part mold. I'll be discussing three different types of molds. You'll hear me talk about press molds, one-part pour molds, and two-part pour molds. A press mold is usually a hydrometer material that you use, and you press another material that you're using to make your part into the cavity. Green stuff molds, I'm sure most people are pretty familiar with those. Green stuff molds are press molds. You have your dried green stuff that has your part in it, and then you press more green stuff into it to duplicate the part. One-part pour molds, those are basically what people do for bases. You just glue it down to a piece of flat something, foam core or a piece of wood or whatever. Glue it down, and then you build your mold box around it, pour it up, and it's got a flat bottom. Those are ideal for making flat parts. And you have your two-part molds. Your two-part molds are basically, it's used for making 360 casts It's two parts. It's a first pour and a second pour. They come together to form a complete mold, and those are absolutely necessary when you're trying to duplicate a part that has details all the way around. Different types of cure. You'll hear tin cure, platinum cure. Really and truly, I don't pay much attention to it. The biggest thing is never use sulfur-based clays, and you'll never have a problem with what type of cure it is. The different types of cures have different properties, so if you really want to get into it, go ahead and look online, do a little bit of Google search and stuff like that. It'll tell you a little bit about how it goes on and what it does, but I don't really pay much attention to it. I don't feel it's important for my needs, so I can't really tell you a whole lot about it. Durometer. You've heard me mention durometer before. Durometer is the toughness of the material, either the silicone or the resin. It's what's measured in a short A hardness. A zero durometer is real soft and flexible. That's whenever you're making molds that have severe undercuts. You need the flexibility to peel it away and peel it back. Another type of silicone, like a Shore 95 to 98 or something like that, that's like hard like a car tire rubber. They're very inflexible, they're very stiff and solid. Those are good for making press molds and such like that. Durometer is just important whenever you're trying to pick a silicone that has different properties in it for undercuts, how much stretchiness you need and such like that. So there we go. Viscosity. Viscosity is really important for your silicone and your resin because that measures how thick it is. Those are measured in centipoise. Centipoise are like 1 centipoi is water. So I mean, it flows really easy. The lower centipoise it is, the easier it pours. You have, let's see, like cooking oil, vegetable oil, olive oil is 500 centipoise. Then motor oil, you have like 2,500 centipoise. Let's see, you're going to like honey. Honey has like 10,000 centipoise. And then when you get to molasses, that's around 100 centipoise. Or correction, 100,000 centipoise. So the higher centipoise it is, the more viscous it is. Which means if it's real viscous, you're going to have a vacuum to degas it. So what we try to do is get a low viscosity so you can just pour it in and it degases itself. A lot of the silicones you see no vacuum needed or no degassing needed. That's just talking about that it's a low viscosity and it usually degasses itself naturally. Same thing with resins. If your resin's real thick like honey, it's hard to get it into all the places in the mold that you need it. So you want a real low viscosity resin whenever you're pouring your molds. Most of the time you'll see what's called water thin viscosity. That's just extremely low viscosity, and that means it pours really easy. Next part that we're going to be talking about will be mix ratios. Mix ratios are extremely important. They're usually or commonly a 1:1 or 1:10. Every once in a while you get a really wonky like 9,000 to 700ths thing, but it's very important that you look at the manufacturer's directions and find out what type of mix ratios they have, and if it's by weight or volume or either. A lot of times things would be like 10:1 by or 1:1 by weight, which means that the part A or the part B might be more dense than the other part, so the volumes may be different, but the weights will be the same. That's why it's important to pay attention to it. Every type of silicone is going to have its own specific type of mixing direction, so just pay attention to those. Next thing is pot life. Pot life is from the time that you mix part A and part B together, that's how much time that you have before the silicone or the resin starts to cure. Usually your silicones, you'll have an extremely long pot life. Usually you'll have anywhere from 30 minutes to up to like 48 hours or so, with some of the specific silicones and such like that. Whereas your resins and such, they go from 90 seconds, like the Aluminite regular is 90 seconds up. So your pot life is from part A and part B go together and mix to the time that they start curing. That's what we mean by pot life. Now we're going to talk about a couple of suppliers. Where can you get this stuff at? The best place to get for the beginners and such like that, I suppose, would be a hobby store. The local hobby town that I go to here in Frederick, they have the Aluminite casting sets. They're anywhere between 50 and 70, maybe even up to $100. But there's usually somebody there that knows about them. You can also go to Michael's or Joann's or Hobby Lobby or any places like that. My local Joann's and Michael's does not carry casting supplies, although I think I can order it through them, but they don't carry them in stock. The next place we'll talk about is smoothon.com. They carry Smooth-On products, of course. Smooth-On products are excellent products. A lot of professionals use Smooth-On products for their casting needs, and whenever they do their production lines that you buy off the internet, a lot of those are Smooth-On products. Their site tends to be hard to navigate for me unless I know specifically the Smooth-On product that I'm looking for. It's sometimes hard for me to flip through and find where they are. Just be advised of that. Specifically, you'll be looking for Moldmax silicone or Oomoo silicone, which is OOMOO. Those are the two silicones that are commonly used in hobbying, and they're Smoothcast 300 resin. That's a type of resin that is real popular with the miniature community as far as casting. So if you're going to Smooth-On, look up those, the Oomoo or the Smoothcast 300, and that's what's commonly used. Next we'll talk about Aluminite. I hit on them just a little bit earlier. Aluminite's another great product. Their site is a little bit easier to navigate than Smooth-On, in my opinion. It's still not super easy to navigate. You kind of have to know what you're looking for, and you kind of have to know a little bit of terminology and lingo in order to cipher through everything. But they make great products. Their Quickset silicone is what I hear is a good silicone to use. The Aluminite regular and the Aluminite white are the two types of casting resin. Aluminite regular is the it kind of dries to like or cures to a tan color, a little off-white eggshell type. That has like a 90-second pot life on it. It's extremely fast curing. The white gives you a little bit more. It's 3 to 5 minutes, if I remember right, is pot life on that. And it dries to a very bright white. I've used Aluminite products before. Aluminite is what I use in my casting classes because I'm teaching through the local hobby town. So I use their products for that. But Aluminite, good quality products, and they're relatively easy to find also. I'd like to talk about Bitty Mold Supply, B-I-T-Y, or Brick in the Yard. They're a group out of Texas. They do a lot of stuff. You have to know what you're looking for once again for there, but their website's pretty easy. If you're wanting like a 10 cure type of silicone, you could go there and they'll give you all the types of 10 cure that they have. If you're looking for a platinum cure silicone, you'll go in there and they'll tell you all about their platinum cure silicones. They're pretty self-explanatory. It'll give you mix ratios right there and say, okay, this is a tin cure 1-to-1 silicone used for mold making. Real self-explanatory once you get into it. Their Easy Flow 60 is the type of resin that most model makers will be interested in. They have several different types of resin, several different types of silicones on there. It's worth a look to go to. Like I said, it's a group out of Texas. They're great guys. More importantly, though, their YouTube channel is phenomenal. I love their videos. I've subscribed to them, and they put out videos all the time. And even when you go into their archives on their channel, there's just a lot of knowledge on there. And they pretty much sell everything that you'll need for mold making. They're really, really good about that. We'll talk about Micromark next, micromark.com. Micromark is what I used when I first started casting. They specialize in miniature hobbyists. People who build doll houses, people who build scale models, war gamers, everything like that. They specialize in miniature scale. They're a one-stop shop. Pretty much anything that you'll need as far as casting you can find in their store. And it's a great one-stop shop. For beginners, you could just go onto their website and everything you'll need is right there. They also have starting casting, beginners casting kits, and they have everything you'll need to make molds and pour resin in those kits. They are a little bit of a premium price. They're not overly expensive, but you do pay for it being a convenience store. I compare them to 7-Eleven. It's there all in one stop, but it's a little bit more expensive than if you went to the grocer to do it. But I used Micromark for years. I love their products, and they have a good selection of stuff. Their site is not hard to navigate. It's very easy, and you just go there. I'm looking for resin. They have the types of resin that they offer. I'm looking for silicone. They offer the types of silicone, and you just pick which one you want from there. They don't have a huge selection, but they do have the basics. They have the 1-to-1, the 10-to-1, the translucent. Anything that you're wanting as a beginner, you can find it on Micromark. And lastly, talk about Aero Marine Products. John Greer, he's who I deal with right now. I absolutely love his products. Once again, he has a very limited supply of what he has. Well, not supply, he has a limited amount of choices. He has his 1-to-1, his 10-to-1, his high temperature 10-to-1, and such like that. But it's phenomenal products. It's given to you at a great price. John Greer is who I deal with. If I have any problems with anything, I can always call him up and give him a ring up, and he answers the phone. Customer service is phenomenal with John Greer. So that's who I deal with currently, is Aero Marine Products, and I have no complaints and absolutely love that company. Guys, this isn't by far an exhaustive list. I'm sure there's several other makers out there, and if I left you out, feel free to contact me and say, hey, I make this too, and I want you to try my products out. I'll be glad to help anyone out, you know, and try to you know, try out their products and stuff like that. If you need any help with your casting, or not quite sure where to get something, again, just feel free to contact me. Next, we're going to talk about a couple of questions you should ask yourself before you begin casting, to make sure the casting is right for you. First question is, what are you doing? What is it that you're wanting to do? What is it you're wanting to accomplish by casting? Is it something that you're making 2 or 3 parts for so you can use in terrain projects? Or is it you sculpted something and you want to make a couple of them? You know, something like that. Or you want to go into production mold business yourself and actually make money casting and such like that? You know, you need to identify what it is you're wanting to achieve, and for your goal and your end state. Secondly, what material are you going to be casting in? Casting in different materials has different problems and different advantages. If you're casting with resin, you're going to have to do molds a certain way, and whereas if you're casting with plaster or green stuff, even using green stuff press molds or two-part green stuff press molds, your techniques are going to be a little bit different. So you need to identify also what you're going to be casting in, what mediums you're going to be using. So that'll help you identify what you need to do for your molds. What are you going to be using it for? Obviously, if you're going to be using something that has a lot of abuse, a piece of terrain, a section 4 model, or something like that, it needs to be cast in durable product. So, I mean, if you're doing something in hydrocal and it's going to be used as something really abrasive, it's not going to last that long. So identify what you're going to be using it for, how much abuse it's going to take, and you need to cast it in something that's going to be durable to match what that's doing. So pretty simple there. Is it cheaper to buy another? I get this question all the time. My local hobby store, the guys come in, they're like, hey, you know, I need this one particular bit and I need 3 of them. What do I do? Can we cast this? And the simple answer is no, because it's cheaper to go to like Battle Wagon Bits from Neil at the War Store, or go to Spiky Bits and just buy the part. If you're only needing 2 or 3 of something, sometimes it's just not worth it to cast. Casting is a very expensive hobby, and a lot of times, unless you're going to be reproducing several of those parts, it's just not quite worth it. Do your research, find out the availability of the bits you need, and if the availability is out there and it's at a fairly cheap price, just buy new ones. It's going to save you a lot of heartache in the long run. If the part is an out of production part, it's an old part, or if they're just extremely rare, where it's going to cost you like $300 to get another one. We all know those type of models. You know, sometimes it's worth it to do a cast of your own personal use. So, you know, you just have to weigh your options there. And is it cheaper to just get a new one? That's one of the things you need to think about. And lastly, the biggest thing you need to think about is, am I going to break copyright laws? This is a very sticky situation. Recasting is frowned upon by the casting community as a whole, by the modeling community as a whole, by the wargaming community as a whole, by the law as a whole. No one likes recasters, because what you're doing is you're basically cheating the people that spent the money for the research and development. You're cutting them out of it, and you're just making sheer profit. I know particularly in case of Sean Nagel, he's all the time finding people that are ripping off his kits on eBay. He's an amazing sculptor. He has some fantastic resin kits out there, but half the time the ones you get are from people who are ripping them off. And it's frustrating for him as a sculptor and an artist, because he's not getting any of the reward for his time and effort spent into it. Luckily, he's a great guy and he supports, you know, the community, so he soldiers on and continues. But it still wraps up in legal fees and taking these guys to court and all this other mess, and it's extremely frustrating for the artist who has done all the research and sculpting this bit and time of making it and casting it and everything else, for someone to make a low quality recast of it and try to sell it on eBay to make a quick buck. All right, that's infuriating, to say the least. So if that's what you're wanting to do, if you're wanting to, you know, try and make a quick buck off someone else's piggyback, I don't think casting's going to be your cup of tea, because if you're found out about it, it's a lot of trouble. So that's the most important statement, if you can get that. And this is at the very last, so it's going to be very fresh in your mind if you watch through the whole video. I know this is boring, but copyright infringement is no joke, and don't get caught doing it by anyone. It's not worth it to go to jail. So I believe that concludes everything that for the introduction. The next video that we get into, we're going to be discussing making molds, actually going through the molding process, and specifically how to identify different parts and such for molding and casting. So the next videos will have more pictures. It just won't be me talking to you, and hopefully it'll be a lot more interesting. But until next time, thanks for suffering through this with me, and hopefully we'll get you started casting and start having fun. It's a fantastic hobby, and it brings a totally new aspect to the hobby. And well, till next time, guys, I'm Monkey Joe signing off. Have a good time.